All right, John, I'm set to go here. I think when you are.
Welcome to Predator Minute, the podcast that breaks down the 1987 action, sci-fi, horror, suspense classic Predator 1 minute at a time. I'm John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And rejoining us this week is returning guest Eric Deutsch.
Thank you for having me back, guys. I very excited to get two weeks in a row, so I'm not cut off wondering what Arnold is saying there in the middle of a sentence.
Right?
What hap?
What hap?
What hap? Hap?
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Eric. We need to finish this conversation and talk about some of the stuff that Dillon said to Dutch, because I'm shooken up. I'm hurt. I'm offended. I can't believe Dillon would say some of these things.
Yeah, I don't think Dillon's on the right of hills right here. I think he's just flying off the handle and just, this guy's out of control. He's a loose cannon.
He's a loose cannon.
John making an obscure Flash Gordon minute reference there.
Yep. So Eric is host of Flash Gordon Minute and the upcoming Escape from New York Minute. We'll have a chance to dive into that towards the end of the podcast. So
yes, for some insane reason, I'm doing a second one. I do not know why.
There's something addicting about it, I have to say. But we're talking about minute 31 of Predator, the Greg Maddux of minutes.
Hey, we got Cy Young winners over here.
I'm the Braves fan, by the way, because I'm from the South, Eric, which is why I had some Braves figures there. And
no, I'm a Mets fan.
Oh, good for you. Good.
Bastard. Take your Greg Maddux and your John Smoltz and shove them up there.
Your Chipper Jones and your... Yeah. All right. So, Mike Piazza of minutes. How about that?
Lopez wants it away. And it's hit deep to left center. Andrew Jones on the run. This one has a chance. Home run! Mike Piazza and the Mets lead 3-2.
What's baseball?
Much better.
I don't know what baseball.
There we go. Baseball. That's the one with the bases and the diamond and the... Yeah, it's good. It's my favorite.
What the hell is baseball?
All right. Okay, so we're minute 31 opens with Dutch continuing to ask Dillon, what happened to you, Dillon? And it ends with Dutch telling Dillon, you're on your own. So we're finishing up the conversation as carryover from the last minute that Dutch and Dillon were speaking quite closely, face to face, sharing some unpleasantries about all the mission and the makings of a man.
Yeah. So we get the very tail end of their conversation here, but I feel like on an emotional level, a couple of the most important sentences, the most important lines of their conversation, because this is when Dutch and Dillon kind of have it out, and then Dillon explains Dillon.
Sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Really kind of pulls the curtain back, and you find out exactly what the true purpose of their mission was. And to start this minute, Dutch kind of steps back and says, what happened to you? Should we have another dramatic line reading to finish up the conversation?
You need to finish up what you started. It's only fair. It's only fair. Who said it was fair?
Who said I'm fair?
This is all bullshit.
It's all bullshit.
So, Eric, you had a fantastic Dutch reading previously, so I think you should continue that character.
All right. Now, do I start from the beginning of the sentence, or do I pick up after the hap?
Let's go. Your choice. Guest choice.
Okay, I'm going to pick up after the hap, so that we don't
nice.
miss anything. Anybody listening last week, you don't have to rehear that part of the sentence.
They've hit fast forward this whole time. Like, when's Eric going to finish the line? Go Dutch!
Splice it together. It'll be a perfect match. That's all.
Anything from my guess.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Into you, Dillon. You used to be somebody I could trust.
I woke up. Why don't you? You're an asset, an expendable asset. And I used you to get the job done. Got it?
My men are not expendable, and I don't do this kind of work.
Scene.
And scene. Oh, that's beautiful.
Just a dagger to the heart.
Yeah.
Oh,
brutal.
What do you guys take from this? Like, this line is cold, that Dillon says. Like, it really is kind of cold.
Well, I mean, has the character of Dutch has never considered himself as an asset? I guess that's the key to his reaction here. Is he really? I mean, he's military or quasi-military, whatever it is his unit is, and has he really never seen himself as an asset in his whole career? I mean, that's the issue. Like, it seems the way Arnold acts the scene is it's the first time that he's having this realization, but how could that be someone who's been in the military, let's say maybe 20 years or whatever, that they've never viewed themselves that way?
Yeah. I think it's possible that he understands or views himself as an asset. I think the line that gets to me or that jumps out at me is right after he says, "You're an asset, comma, an expendable asset."
Ah, okay.
You're an asset. An expendable asset.
And that's the one that I'm like, whoa, like you might hear that from a top tier general speaking behind closed doors, smoking cigars to other generals. But to have a friend or former friend just say it to your face that you are expendable, I was just using you, and there's, you could have died and I don't care, is what I read from that line. Just feels cold. I don't know.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and this is his friend. This guy used to be someone he could trust.
You used to be somebody I could trust.
Right. He says it in the line there, and you see at the beginning of the movie where clearly they had some camaraderie. Personally, I think it really hurts Dillon saying this. It's something maybe Dillon has been waiting to say. It's something he couldn't say because that would blow his cover too early on. But to say these things, I think, is hurting him because he knows he's just like, right, if there's any illusion that we had some kind of friendship up to this point, it's totally gone now. It's all business. And to turn this from something collegial to business, it's hurting. It's telling you that he shouldn't be trusting him. He says, right, if you used to be someone I could trust, and he says, I woke up. Why don't you? He doesn't say something like, hey, you can trust me. Like, I'm still your friend. No, it's just, I'm a level above you now. You need to wake up. You need to see past your nose.
I woke up. Why don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, just continuing what John McTiernan was saying about this is why Carl Weathers was brought on to play this guy who's not the bad guy, but he is like the bad version of a good guy, the good guy who's doing things for the wrong reasons, or who thinks he's on the right side, but really he's making all the wrong calls and he's making big mistakes.
He thinks the ends justify the means, or the means justify the ends, right?
Whatever that saying is, yeah.
And that's a good point about that it looks like he's having a hard time saying that, because the "I woke up" line means at some point in the past, Dillon realized he himself is an expendable asset.
Yeah.
And he knows he is, and once he was able to accept that, he was able to move forward with the rest of his career.
Mm-hmm.
And then 30 years later, Arnold realized that and made a movie called The Expendables.
Yes! Incredible foreshadowing here in Predator. Right. I caught the same thing.
This is a
trivia. It's funny.
This is a prequel. This is a prequel to those movies.
The Expendables. My men are not expendable.
I don't do this kind of work.
My men are not expendable. And I don't do this kind of work.
So that ends the, Dutch response, my men are not expendable. I don't do this kind of work. And that right there ends their conversation, and he leaves the palapa, and we move on to the next scene.
Let me throw a couple last minute notes about their conversation here.
Yeah, besides the conversation, did you have other tidbits about this scene you wanted to go over?
Yeah, I wanted to wait till the conversation was finished, but and I was talking about the field manual. I briefly mentioned it last minute, but in the field manual, it's the first time I'm visiting in a long time, I feel like, but
yeah,
the field manual is a 1982 Army document for the purpose of conducting operations in the jungle. So there are a lot of specifics to vegetation and threats in the jungle, how to maneuver through the jungle, how to track enemy forces, how to stage an ambush, how to protect against an ambush, what weapon loadouts there are. It made mention a few times of finding documents and using any kind of documents, captured documents, equipment, and weapons for more information. But it also makes mention of taking prisoners of war as keys to enemy movements and enemy plans. To the point it even says food remnants and feces can indicate how long ago an enemy unit occupied an area. And I think if you're looking around the camp, you're saying, yeah, I think they were here not too long ago alive.
Did you say food remnants and feces?
And feces.
Sounds like my dorm room.
Hey-o!
Hey.
What if they come across a pile like the one Jeff Goldblum comes across in Jurassic Park?
Yeah. That is one big pile of shit.
That is one big pile of shit.
Still warm. They went that way.
That would be great if Dillon and Dutch came into the Palapa and there was just a giant pile of shit in the middle of the room. They've been here for a while.
Gosh, what else? In the script, the difference is that Dillon's character Dixon, it's what I'll just call him Dillon in the script. The original script, Dillon is talking about the threat they're facing on a wider scale. He's talking about, we're fighting him in a dozen countries, global war. We're too close to the edge. We can't lose this one. And then Dutch says, spare me the good guy shit. I've seen enough of your global war today, Dillon. It stinks. And then Dillon gives him the line, it's a dirty world, Lieutenant. Very, very reminiscent to me of, why don't you wake up, without expanding to like a global thing to remind us, hey, like there's threats worldwide we know some about, and there's a lot we don't know about. And
connects to what we've continued to talk about, that there always has to be sort of this background big bad Russian connection, right? And so that the script kind of alludes to that there's evil forces in the world that we have to combat. Right, aka Russians and communism.
Yeah. Oh, those Soviets.
Oh, yeah. The Ruskies.
Lastly, I wanted to say John McTiernan is the one who's taking credit for the change in this from the script to the movie. In that, in the script, Dillon is not Arnold's best friend from the very beginning. He's just some outside CIA spook who's along for the ride and telling them what to do and directing them. And so you don't have that possible redemption story they have at the end where they're respecting each other. They're still working side by side. By the end, there's definitely some patching up between Dillon and Mac as they try to track the predator. So yeah, it's good to see a character who's down there with that team, who's, I don't know, for lack of a better word, going to be redeemed by the end. Who's not just like, oh, he's gone, he's out of the way. He's like Paul Reiser in Aliens, like, good riddance, you trash.
Right.
But you end up, I think, feeling his death because he's going out more nobly than he did in the script.
Interesting. Yeah. Once again, a good decision on the script change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, should we move on? I'm sorry, Eric, did you have anything else to add about this conversation or this half of the minute before we go on to the second section?
No, not inside the Palapa.
Yeah, okay. So, that brings us to, are you good there, John?
I'm good. We're leaving the Palapa after a couple minutes now.
Yeah, now I feel like this next part is we get, it's some dialogue here. A lot of it is kind of moving the plot along, moving the narrative along a little bit. So we get, I think the dialogue here works as exposition in a sense, just to move the story to the next act, which we talked about. Act! We are
such a knee-jerk reaction.
Man,
I'm so sorry.
We are in a transitional period here from Act 1 to Act 2 of this film. The raid at the camp really kind of finishes the first 1/3 of the movie, and we're going to start heading into the section of the film where the crew is going to start learning more about the Predator. I'm really excited for the second act of the film, actually. We learn a lot more about the Predator. We get a lot more Predator vision, and so there's going to be, it's kind of fun. Like the focus of our analysis is going to shift a little bit, which I think will be exciting.
Yeah, it's that genre shift that I'm referencing every time I throw out 4 different genres and describing the movie at the beginning.
Right.
Like we're
So
moving
true.
from the action onto the suspense and horror components.
Yeah, so on that, we get Dutch leaves the palapa, comes up the stairs, and meets Hawkins. And Hawkins says, John, why don't you do a Hawkins?
Yeah, well, Hawkins is calling him out of the palapa away from the conversation that Dutch is ending with Dillon here. He's saying, Major, we stepped into some real shit here. And then before Hawkins can continue, you hear... you see and hear Dillon talking to a knocked out Anna as she's kind of groaning on the ground. He says, "Te sientes bien?"
¿Te sientes bien?
Like, are you feeling well? And I have a note about that in a minute, but Anyway, so Dutch comes out of the palapa and Hawkins continues. Air surveillance says we got guerrillas all over the place. Can't be more than 1-2 miles away. This place going down.
How much time?
Half an hour, maybe less.
Tell Mac. 5.
Yes, sir.
Then Dillon comes out with Anna trailing behind. What's Dillon say? Go ahead, Jeff.
Wait, she goes with us. She's too valuable. She's got to know their whole network.
She'll give away our position any chance she gets. No deal.
You're still under orders, Major. You want to make that call, or should I?
She's no baggage. You fall behind, and you're on your own.
Yes.
End of scene, end of minute. Oh, what a great, just blowing
Nice
smoke
cigar.
as I leave this conversation. That's how you walk away from a conversation. I love the puff that Eric gave too.
That is, I mean, the dude can't make a movie without smoking a cigar. I
No.
mean,
Seriously.
he just says they got to bail within 5 minutes because the guerrillas are coming in. They just had this crazy thing, and he's taking the time to light a cigar. Now, I like smoking a cigar when I celebrate stuff also, but
Sure.
there's a time and a place,
Yeah.
and it's just like Arnold must have in his contracts at some point in my movies, my character has to smoke a cigar, because even in Batman and Robin, when he's playing Mr. Freeze,
Yes.
who is a frozen person, he smokes a cigar.
I agree. Just love seeing it. It's not our first cigar of this movie either. It's
Right.
Oh, man.
The very first one was right when you see him in the chopper the first time when original co-host Aaron is saying, like, you would not be smoking a cigar in the chopper. There's like all these warning signs, and you just wouldn't do that.
Yeah, do you think they were filming and in the middle of the scene he just pulled out his cigar and then McTiernan was like, cut, and he's like, what are you doing? And Arnold's like, fuck you, I smoke cigars.
And McTiernan says, well, this is my first
all right.
feature-length movie. Yeah, you're good, Arnold. Why don't you
Okay.
run with this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's rewind back to the beginning here of this exchange.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick it up where Hawkins says to Dutch that air surveillance says we've got guerrillas all over the place. Can't be more than 1 or 2 miles away. This place is going down.
Mm-hmm.
Dutch responds, how much time? Hawkins says half an hour, maybe less. Dutch then says, we're going to tell Mac that we're going to move in 5 minutes.
Right.
Mac! So I was wondering, does that mean, are they done cleaning up and leaving no trace?
Yeah, because 2 minutes ago, with Scott on, he pointed out, like, how ridiculous is that he just told Mac, like, 2 minutes ago, no traces.
No traces.
Like, what do you mean no traces? Mac doesn't say anything other than, all right. That's his
Okay.
response. Like, we're going to take care of that. Like, this is not a Boy Scout camp you're cleaning up afterwards. This is a major invasion. You partook in taking down 80-plus guerrillas
No traces.
in the span
I'm
of
picturing
3 minutes,
Mac.
thousands of bullets.
Yeah. Everything's burnt to the ground.
No traces.
I'm picturing Mac like on his hands and knees, like planting trees, trying to put things back in place.
No traces.
Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, 5 minutes? I need like 3 hours, maybe a couple days.
No traces.
Too old for this shit.
Too old for this shit.
No traces.
Anyway, I guess that the cleanup is almost done because they're going to move out in 5, and Blaine seems to agree. Yes, sir.
He runs off with that minigun, the old Painless right there.
Old Painless is waiting.
And
So then this is also where we learn that we are going to keep the hostage, and Anna is going to continue on.
yeah, before Dillon leaves the palapa with her, he does say, Te sientes bien, Spanish for "Are you feeling well?"
¿Te sientes bien?
Right, she's just laying on the ground, just groaning, probably a huge welt on her head, bleeding out from the head a little bit. That we see a little bit later. In the script, he asks her that question in Russian, not Spanish. So in the script, he is trying to dig into those Soviet ties. But yeah, it's just a funny scene. And the note I had about that is when he says "Te sientes bien,"
¿Te sientes bien?
it sounds a lot like Arnold saying it.
¿Te sientes bien?
For some reason, I don't know, maybe he and Arnold sound more alike than I give them credit for, but it's just a little nuance I picked up in the audio.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know that was Dillon saying that until you said it here.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure who was saying that line.
Right, like it wouldn't make sense for Dutch to say, because is he saying it as he leaves?
Not only that, but I don't think Dutch cares.
Right, Dutch doesn't care, and like it's not like he'd be talking to Hawkins in Spanish all of a sudden.
¿Te sientes bien?
Hey, Hawkins, are you feeling well? Like, yeah, I'm fine. But yeah, Hawkins has given us the line to say, hey, we're moving on to Act 2. This is what's squeezing us. We have to move on to the next plot point.
Yeah. That's that again. That's what I kind of feel like this transition, this exchange is kind of shifting the film into the next section, kind of telling the audience, okay, we're leaving the Palapas, we're leaving the guerrilla camp, we're going to be heading out, we're going to take a hostage. We now know that the goal here was we were ill-informed. And so we're heading into the next section of the story. Very exciting.
Dillon is
Dillon
is sweetening the mission by bringing, like you said, the new hostage Anna along with the team, and it's all Dillon's call. Dillon's reminding Dutch who's in charge here. He's not saying like he's not being the mean Dillon we just saw back in the plot, but he's just being, I'm in charge. You're kind of like your classic like 80s, I don't know, dean of a college. Like, this is how it's going to go, crazy frat house or whatever. And you're gonna follow my orders. You're gonna do this. Yeah. Are you gonna make that call, or should I? And it's kind of like, who's gonna call the principal? Like, or, and if he just everything goes right, like, hey, no need to call the principal. Why bring authority into this?
Yeah. And Dutch's response is kind of like, okay, fine, you're in charge, you can bring her along, but she's your responsibility. He also, when he says you fall behind, you're on your own, is kind of him saying, you may be in charge of this mission, I'm in charge of my men, and that's that. And they kind of leave and go their ways.
Yeah, and right, by all accounts, the rest of this movie, I think Dillon does a great job of keeping track of Anna and just keeping her, and close to the crew and doing what she's supposed to be doing. I think everybody just kind of ends and, taking her out. So we were talking about this conversation earlier, Eric, about where Dillon's not even maybe in it. Dillon doesn't seem by his actions here, and is talking to himself in the previous minute, that the team was brought here to really find a bunch of paperwork and find a bunch of information, that perhaps they're really just there to wipe out the guerrillas. Why does Dillon insist on bringing Anna with them? He says, right, knowing their whole network, is that really the case? Do you think they're really taking a prisoner of war to interrogate her for information?
I was going to make the same point. I know for story reasons why the character is kept alive, but the in-universe, it makes no sense. Every single other person has been killed. The only reason she wasn't killed was by a total twist of fate that Arnold hit her in the head instead of shooting her, which is lucky she didn't die from that blow to the head. It makes no sense to not just, put her in handcuffs, stick her in a corner and say, good luck and take off. Because she is just going to be a burden. She could give away their position. I'm not sure the in-universe reason why they need to bring her along.
Yeah. It seems strategically it doesn't seem to quite fit. Like, if their mission now is to get out of there as fast as possible and to escape, like Dutch has just found out that their mission, which he didn't really fully know about, is over now. They've done what they have to do. Like, now his mission is just to get everyone out alive. It seems like to take a hostage would slow that objective down. And I guess he says that in so many words. But yeah, it doesn't quite fit the scenario in the movie, although we know why she's kept alive for the sake of the story.
Even though she dies in the original script.
Yeah.
Really? Is that right? We get to hear her say later on that great line, It changed colors like the chameleon.
She keeps on saying the jungle came alive.
Bullshit, that's not what she said.
Sorry to jump the show ahead there.
Oh, no, go for it. Yeah, this is
oh, man, I can't wait till we get to some of the Predator action.
Also, is she, is she the only woman in the gorilla camp? Were there any other women at any point in the scene?
We never saw any others, and we didn't see any killed on screen or what looked to be any female bodies, just piled up or anywhere like that. So I think it's the only female.
Pretty convenient that the one woman is the one survivor. That works out incredible.
Yeah.
I hope it's not like the one female Smurf scenario.
Oh, no.
Scary.
Smurfette.
Poor Smurfette. What are you doing with yourself, Smurfette?
Do you think if this movie were to be made today, do you think that the gorilla camp would have had more female soldiers in this battle?
I have the impression that there would not be any female soldiers if this was made today for some reason. I don't know. I've seen enough action movies, like modern day action movies, to say like they're just so about, even today, they're so about just throwing all the mooks that they can that are all just kind of dressed in black, and they're these professional mercenaries. And it's so rare you see like a female soldier or a female mercenary.
Yeah,
it's surprising.
For better or for worse, I feel like audiences are able to accept a bunch of male actors dying easier than female soldiers. I don't know, but it's interesting. It's a good point or a good question.
Right. If they're like really...
because I mean, like
Go ahead.
Yeah, like the Star Wars movies have, a little bit, they have Captain Phasma, and some of the like Imperial officers and like crews on the Star Destroyers, they've made those women. None of that was not at all in the original Star Wars movies, but there's still this, other than Captain Phasma, all the stormtroopers do appear to still all be men. So yeah,
that's a good point. And right, what would we be taking away if in this movie if they're just like Anna's just another casualty that they're blown away with M16s or grenades or the minigun? Would we be going, ooh, that's a little brutal, because like maybe our unconscious or subconscious minds are saying like, oh, like seeing a woman die in this fashion is not the same? It's a good question. Good question, Eric. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So does that round things out? Does that bring us to the end of this minute? Do we have anything else to add?
I don't think I have anything else to add. It's neat. The last thing I'll add is it's neat to see Hawkins' little radio setup. If I had a little more time, I guess, just being busy as I am, I probably would have done some research on what kind of radio this is. But it's neat to see his little radio setup before he starts folding it up. And it's also neat later on in this minute to see him just listen to the conversation between Dutch and Dillon, and Hawkins, like the young blood of the group, is just kind of looking back and forth like this is mom and dad arguing, or this is more like mom and her new boyfriend arguing, because he's like, well, who's the new guy?
Yeah.
Like, why is he saying what to do, mom? Like, no, I just want to go play with my buddies. I want to go see the Mets play or something like that. Come on.
I'm glad you brought that up, because his little like umbrella looking antenna that he's got on that tripod is kind of cool. Yeah. I was noticing that earlier, and he like folds it right up and sticks it all away. That's pretty sweet.
We'll have to look out for future iterations or appearances of the radio.
All right. Well, Eric, did you have anything else you wanted to add on this minute?
No, I sadly am out of notes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, the kill count's still static at 91. 8 good guys. Wah, wah.
I got no deaths.
No deaths.
Last week or today, no deaths.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm bored. Can we speed this thing up?
Yeah, but we talk weekly recommends, and it seems like only a little bit ago we were talking weekly recommends for last week. But if you guys have something else to share, it'd be a good time to plug something that you've seen or something you've listened to. We're all big podcast fans, so I know it's good to recommend those, because in my opinion, you can do so much while you're listening to a podcast. It makes it very versatile, whereas movies, TV shows are a little bit more like sit down, have your full attention. So if you guys feeling like plugging something audio or something video or something totally out of left field, this is a great time. So Eric, do you have what do you have for us?
I want to recommend it for anyone who hasn't read it, Arnold's autobiography that came out about 6-7 years ago.
Nice.
It is. I'm a huge Arnold fan. This movie is one of the reasons why he was my big action actor hero growing up in the 80s. And his autobiography, it gets into all of his movies. his sense of humor comes through. He talks about all of his iconic lines and where they came from. He goes into some crazy stuff that he got involved with when he was the governor. And so it's really if you're a fan of Arnold, it is an absolute must-read.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
What's it called?
Yeah.
It's called Total Recall, of course.
What?
Oh,
Yes.
I've seen that.
Yes.
that is a great title for an autobiography. That's excellent.
It's Total Recall, my unbelievably true life story by me.
Get your ass to
Get
Mars.
your ass to Mars.
Get your ass to Mars.
Get your ass to Mars. Quaid!
See you at the party, Richter. Oh, that's a good
Yes.
move. That needs the movies by minute treatment.
I love Total Recall. That's another one that was. I feel like that movie played on an endless loop on like TBS or
Yes,
TNT.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, and so I know all the like garbage like made for TV like edits over the swears. Oh my god! But I watched that movie so much in the '90s when I was a kid. I loved
And that movie is what, like half an hour edited for TV, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow, it's shorter than an episode of Family Ties.
I did a couple of years ago watch it unedited for the first time in a long time, and I was like, "Oh wow,
Oh, wow, yeah.
There's no way they're
Oh, look,
showing on
there's-
TV that guy's arms getting ripped off in the elevator.
yeah," or the three boobs.
Oh,
like it
sure,
all
right.
surprised me.
No,
Yeah.
surprisingly, they still show that on the TV broadcast. It's weird. No, they don't.
show the three boobs.
No.
Oh. I was like, what TV broadcast are you watching?
Cinemax.
I was like, please tell me now. I'm gonna go change the channel.
That was like my note about. No, I think that guy's still alive. When Arnold just fills him full of lead, you and Zach are like,
Yeah.
"Wait, really? No, guys, I'm kidding."
You're like, all right, that's a good recommend. I'll have to check that one
Yeah.
out. Total Recall, the book.
Yeah.
All right, I have a recommend this week that's not a repeat. Are you guys excited for
What?
that? I know. Wow.
It's Total Recall, the book. Wait for it.
Get your ass to Mars. Yeah, I should just recommend the exact same thing Eric did. I'm going to recommend a podcast, and in fact, I'm going to recommend another Movie by Minutes
What?
podcast that I recently started listening to. Yeah, so anyone that knows me knows that I like horror
I knew
movies. You did, and as we all know, there were a lot of great horror franchises throughout the 80s. My personal favorite, which is like horror comfort food for me, is the Friday the 13th series. I can pretty much watch any of those movies at any time. They're so easy to watch, so predictable, fun. I just love them. And so a podcast started up recently that's called You're All Doomed. And they are going through all the Friday the 13th movies, but not minute by minute, because that would take a lifetime. There are so many of them. They're doing every movie in 13-minute chunks. And it's been pretty fun. I'm currently on part 2, Friday the 13th part 2, which is one of my favorite of the series. So if you enjoy Friday the 13th, check out You're All Doomed, the podcast.
Awesome. So you're liking that? You said you're part of the way through part 2. Awesome.
Yeah. They just started on part 2, so they've only released their first episode for part 2.
Okay. Right. Well, I'm going to make it 3 for 3 and just also recommend Total Recall, the autobiography by Shoot. Step on my recommend.
Oh. Yeah.
What are the odds? A show I really enjoyed. It only lasted for 3 seasons, and it's British, so those seasons are super short. It's called Toast of London. And I know the guys on Star Wars Minute have talked about it quite a bit, but it's actually something I discovered before they mentioned it on Star Wars Minute. I discovered it a couple of years ago on Netflix. It's just one of those recommended things that pop up.
This is Clem Fandango.
Yeah, I know who you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Clem Fandango. What do you want?
Just letting you know we're ready to go.
He just said that!
Toast of London is this comedy series following Stephen Toast, who's this professional actor in London, played by the hilarious Matt Berry. And he just goes through all sorts of trials and tribulations, trying to perform this play, which you never see. The running gag is that whenever they try to perform it, like there's a big riot and that people just hate it and it's despicable, the play they're putting on. But you never see it. You always see like the aftermath or the build up. So that's part of it. But two, he's just trying to find work as this everyday actor, just trying to find his niche. And some of the best scenes are just him trying to do his vocal work when he's like recording for commercials or other voiceovers, and he's in the sound booth, and the people outside the sound booth are really giving him a hard time, or they're just super annoying. And his little struggles and how he reacts to everything are just really funny. And there's little bits and pieces of the hyper realism here and dream sequences there, but by and large just a really funny series. I highly recommend it. It's called Toast of London because his character is Stephen Toast, and that's another humorous element, as they have lots of funny names.
Now he's the guy that was also on IT Crowd, is that right?
Yes, he was the second boss in IT Crowd, which is right where I recognized him and said, I know this guy, but I don't know him very well. And in Toast of London, you come to know his acting style and his chops really well. Yes. I really enjoy it. And when season 3 ended, it just made me super sad when it was coming to an end. And I highly recommend it.
I'll have to check that out because I'm a big fan of IT Crowd, and he was pretty damn funny in that show. So
it's probably worth a rewatch for me, just because some of those comedies can really do it for me, like The Office, Arrested Development. This is another one I would say. Yeah, it's a good one. Now we talk about where we can find our guest, our hosts. But Eric, you're the guest. Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook, as we said before. The upcoming Escape from New York Minute recording has begun, so come find us on Facebook in Brains Library, the Escape from New York Minute Hangout, or on Twitter, NY Minute Pod. And also, I was the co-host of Flash Forward a Minute, which is still out there if you want to go binge the whole thing. And you can chat with us on Facebook there too. I keep my eyes there. That's the Flash Gordon Minute Listeners Vortex on Facebook.
Awesome. And the Predator Minute page you can find online on Facebook is Predator Minute Listeners Palapa. And Eric, I really appreciate you joining the group and making comments here and there. I really appreciate the back and forth and the feedback and the comments.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I made like 2 comments and I already got some kind of badge or something like that. I was like, wow, that was easy.
Here's your badge. That's awesome. Yeah, but I tend to post any kind of articles or realizations, or every time we post a minute, I'll make the post in that closed group. And you mentioned that you're part of Flash Gordon Minute and the upcoming Escape from New York Minute. Did you know there are now currently 123 different Movies by Minutes podcasts, each one breaking down either a movie or a series of movies. So you do the math, and that comes to, who knows, maybe somewhere around 300 to 500 different movies being covered at any given point by this huge growing list of podcasts. So if you have a movie series that you enjoy, or just go there, moviesbyminutes.com, and see if maybe your favorite movie is being broken down minute by minute. In all likelihood, it is. So whether you like really popular movies like Star Wars, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, or maybe some more obscure movies. Eric was talking earlier about guesting on Dave Made a Maze.
Dave Made a Maze.
Yeah. So he talked a little bit about his experience, but you can find him guesting on that podcast. See what all the fuss is about, why we break these things down minute by minute. And maybe even if you're feeling up to it, throw your hat in the ring, pick your favorite movie or favorite movie series, and say, I want to tackle this as a project, and put all your heart and soul into it, and let us know, because we love the community. The community is very supportive, and you can find them on Facebook at Minute Makers and Listeners, Movies by Minute Master Group, if you're interested in contributing there or just want to give some love as a listener. So, Jeff, where can people find you?
Oh,
my name is College Bin Expert.
I'm on the Twitter. You can find me at capital K, Carl _ capital H Hungus 314.
Carl Hungus Pie.
Carl Hungus Pie. Come follow me for occasional tweets, retweets, Seahawks news, horror movie live tweeting, things of that nature.
Seahawks.
Hawks!
Touchdown, Seahawks.
The ball is hit as it comes out and it's picked off by the Seahawks. Far sideline, Malcolm Smith, 50, 45, he's going to go. 30, nobody's going to touch him. Cuts back 20, 10. The Legion of Boom, the Seahawks defense. They do it again. Holy catfish. Touchdown, Seahawks.
Yep. You can find Predator Minute on Twitter. It's at Predator Minute. Like I mentioned before, we're on the Facebook. You can email us with any of your weekly recommends or things to point out in the upcoming minutes that you maybe don't think we're going to find or we're going to discover or break down in such a analytical fashion. You can email us at predatorminute@gmail.com. But Eric, I'd like to say thank you again for joining us.
Well, thanks very much for having me these last 2 weeks, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And for Predator Minute, I've been John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And I'm Eric Deutsch.
And until next time,
stick around.
Knock, knock.
You set us up. It's all bullshit. All of it. The cabinet minister, the whole business. You got us in here to do your dirty work.
Look, we just stopped a major invasion. In 3 days, there would have been across the border with this stuff.
Why us?
Because nobody else could have pulled this off. You're pissed about the cover story. I knew I couldn't get you in here without it.
So what story did you tell Hopper?
Look, we've been looking for this place for months. My men were in that chopper when it got hit. Hopper's orders was to go in and get my men, and he disappeared.
He didn't disappear. He was skinned alive.
And my orders were to get somebody in who could crack these bastards.
Crack!
So you cooked up a story and dropped the 6 of us in the meat grinder. What happened to you, Dillon? You used to be somebody I could trust.
I woke up. Why don't you? You're an asset, an expendable asset. And I used you to get the job done. Got it?
My men are not expendable, and I don't do this kind of work.